Step number 6, durations. Now, durations is a big topic because not just inputting, as you can see here in the original duration column, but what the level of detail. Um, the level of detail is not basically determined any other way beyond saying what scope of work can we fit within 2 to 12 duration days. Um, Obviously, that's a rule of thumb. We don't want to have any activities that are in excess of 20 days, except for pre-construction. Things like, submittals, procurement, those type of items. It's okay for them to be in excess of that. But 95% of all activities need to be between 2 to 12 duration days. That helps us clearly define what the level of detail that we need. Having excessively long activities creates issues because we're going to have to try to monitor those. 2 to 12 days gives us, a good level of monitoring, but yet it's not overly detailed, but it's not overly broad too. This is probably the single most difficult thing most project managers have to do, is to get it to the appropriate level of detail. And as we talked about, the level of detail is truly determined by whoever's approving it, but using that 2 to 12 rule, that helps us tremendously to make sure we're at the appropriate level of detail. And there's a lot of literature, and there's a lot of documented experts who say that the level of detail should be less than 20 days, and 2 to 12 is a good rule of thumb. So how do we break something down that is, say, large? Say that we have a road that is 4 miles long. Well, that's a long, if we're going to do, say, the paving for 4 miles, how do we break it down to where we're not having an activity which is 40 duration days? We could do it simply by markers, or we can do it by drawings. I like using drawings, for example, because if we tie everything to the drawings, when problems occur during that process, we can simply say, okay, page, drawing C1 through C20, we had this issue, and it's easy to do a time impact analysis. But that's how we can break things down. It also serves as a way of motivating people to do their job. So if we have 4 miles and we say it's going to take 40 days to do it, if we can break it down into smaller tasks, at the end of each week, people feel a sense of accomplishment. People want to be successful, so we want to give them the tool. Remember, 80% of the reason projects are unsuccessful is because of management issues, not clearly defining what the goal is supposed to be, and defining it in a proper level of detail. So we want that scope to fit into 2 to 12 days. As far as inputting the duration, we'll go back to our other project here, our sample preliminary project. We just, we'll go in here and we'll just simply just type in the original duration. Say, for this one it's 0, right? It's a milestone. For this one, it is an actual task, and it'll have a a duration. You can see in there kind of how they're indicated. A bar here, it's indicated red now because it's a critical path item. Maybe it's the longest path to the network. One thing I will show you is you can zoom in a little bit greater if you want to have some greater clarity on it. You can't really see the diamond in there right now, but there's a diamond for the NTP. Okay, so as fact, I like to do a schedule methodically, and what I mean by that is, during this step is I like to go through all the tasks and assign duration days at once. So during step 5, when we're defining activities, we define them all, and then we come back and we put all the duration days for all those. The reason I like that is because it makes your thought process consistent. Most people will try to do everything. We'll try to put in the predecessor, successor, everything in that individual step. But The problem with that is you lose the consistency of thought. So being methodical is important, and I talk a lot about that in these videos about that because it is very important. That's why I have the schedule broken into step-by-step process, because that's how it should be done. Step one, then step two, then step three, and so on and so forth. Okay. Um, the only other thing that I'll have to say is sometimes it would be good to import a not import, not import, but to put a column in there that uh, that deals with man days. There are two ways to be successful as a general contractor. First one is to get people to show up for work. So those are covered by duration days, right? So if we can get them to show up for work, they get a duration day. The second way is that for them to bring enough people, and those are covered by man days. If you can get people to show up and bring enough people, the chance of you being successful is pretty good. So I try to encourage people to create mandate columns because it sets the expectations of what the crew size is. So if we're going to go ahead and create a mandate column, because that's not a standard column that we'd create in a schedule, we would simply go into to actually develop an individual task. Um, you know, that will be able to sign or develop a column, per se. And if we just went in and we said, okay, we're going to go ahead and develop a task, well, develop an individual task, and it doesn't have a column, then we can have an issue. So we'll go ahead and develop a individual task. We'll go into the columns. If baseline labor is usually the column I like to use for to use for a mandate column. Um, let's see. And let me hunt it for it here. It should be under labor. I have it under user defined already, but I wanted to show you how to develop it from one that you don't necessarily have already. So bear with me for a second. Oh, it's already here. Oh, well, it's baseline labor cost. That's not the one I'm looking for. We can use baseline labor. We can just put baseline one duration. We could use that as a column. If we brought that over and then we edited the column and then we named that column man days, and we clicked OK, we'd have a column now, and you can see it's it's not in the correct place. So we can click on it, and we can drag it wherever we need to be to drag it. And see, it didn't save that. So what we need to do is we need to go back in and look at the column, look at the columns, and change the name again. And now you can see we changed the name of the column. And then we can go ahead and input whatever we need for and this column here, because we have a previous baseline set up, it's not going to let us change it. So we probably want to go and use another column. That's a good example of what not to do, to create a column. We can take a user defined column and we can say, okay, well, oh, here's the labor cost. Okay, this is what I was looking for to begin with. Uh, uh, Baseline labor units, okay? And we want to put it right there. And then we want to go back in and change the name of it, right? Baseline labor units. We'd edit the column. We put in man days. And now we got a mandate column, and then we're able to actually modify this and and put the appropriate information in. Labor units, we can go in here and we put 200, and so in the detail section, we can go ahead and put the amount of man days appropriate. That can or can't help you. That's a good tool to use. I usually try to talk my customers into to using it because it's a good tool. Because remember, to be successful, if you can get people to show up and bring enough people, you're successful. So that's step number 6, going through durations. We talked about the level detail, appropriate to between 2 and 12 days. We don't want to have any activities over 20 days. 95% of all activities need to be between 2 and 12. We want to make sure any long activities are broken down to appropriate pieces and parts. So that they fit in that 2 to 12. We want to make sure we do it methodically, step by step, as we go through these videos, and in this case, assigning duration days and assigning man days. And that covers step number 6.